People often say to me, "Hey Alfie, I know that Ryan Giggs tops the Premier League's all-time assist charts with 162 Premier League assists, and I know Harry Kane leads the way this season with 13 assists, but who made the most assists in the Premier League on a seasonal basis each season since the 1992-93 campaign?" Whether I'm going to the shops, just taking the bins out, or riding my unicycle around the village, it seems that all anyone is interested in these days is assists. Honestly, if I had £1 for every time someone asked me to make a video about the Premier League player with the most assists each season, I would literally have £1, since this is one of my stupid, sarcastic introductions, and Kevin on Twitter is the only person to have requested this video. But I thought it might be an interesting one nonetheless. So stay tuned as we meander our way through the seasons with fascinating insight at every turn, before an eye-opening observation analysing the list in its entirety from me at the end. You don't want to miss it. It's the reason why they call me the Mozart of football YouTube. Here is the player that topped the Premier League's assist charts every season from 1992 to 2020, including 4 seasons in which it was a tie. Can you guess which 4? Probably not. Here we go. 1992-93. Eric Cantona. A man who made almost as many assists as he scored goals in the Premier League, Eric Cantona struck 70 times in 156 games for Manchester United in the Premier League, whilst he made 56 assists. The 1992-93 campaign was Cantona's most creative, and you may recall that it was also the season in which he signed for Manchester United midway through the campaign and inspired the Red Devils to their first top-flight league title since the 1960s. Cantona notched a mightily impressive 16 assists in 35 Premier League outings, leaving the likes of Darren Anderton, Matt Le Tissier, and Niall Quinn for dead in the assist chart. 1993-94. Andy Cole. Andy Cole is much more associated with scoring goals than creating them, and rightly so, but we ought not forget the brilliance of his all-round game. When people think of Cole's powers of creativity, they probably think of his strike partnership with Dwight York, but it was actually during his tremendous 1993-94 season at Newcastle United that the Englishman most frequently provided for his teammates. In a quite frankly extraordinary campaign, Cole scored 34 goals and made 13 assists in 40 Premier League appearances, an average of 1.175 goal contributions per game. Eric Cantona was his closest competitor, just one place behind his future Manchester United teammate on 12 assists. 1994-95. Matthew Le Tissier. A constant attacking threat in his prime, who frequently appeared towards the top end of the Premier League's goal and assist charts, Matt Le Tissier was at his most creative at Southampton in the 1994-95 campaign. Probably the best season of his career all round, Le Tissier scored 20 goals in the Premier League, 30 in all competitions, and he made a league-high 15 assists, narrowly seeing off perennial Nurley man Darren Anderton by just 1 assist in the race for top spot. Le Tissier scored 100 goals and made 64 Premier League assists in total, though he also spent 6 seasons in the First Division before the breakaway of the Premier League, so his real assist numbers are likely to be a fair bit higher. 1995-96. Steve McManaman. A man who is as good at football as he is bad at co-commentary on BT Sport, I'm sorry Macca, but I have to turn the volume down, Steve McManaman was the man of the hour in 1995-96. A tremendous wide man who ought to have won far more than the 37 caps for England that he did, McManaman was in fine form for Liverpool in the 1995-96 season, notching 15 assists in the Premier League alone. Had he not left the Premier League behind in 1999 in a move to Real Madrid, McManaman would likely rank among the league's all-time top 10 assist providers. 1996-97. Eric Cantona. That man again, our first repeat offender, is Eric Cantona. Found guilty on crimes relating to cutting straight through the heart of a defence and robbing Manchester United's opponents of all 3 points. Oh, and actually assaulting a Crystal Palace fan. That last one is likely to command the harshest sentence since the other 2 aren't real crimes. Cantona wreaked havoc once again in 1996-97 with 11 goals and 12 assists in the Premier League. He also played 50 games in all competitions, yet this was the season in which Cantona retired, aged 30. Saying that he had lost his passion for the sport. 1997-98. David Beckham. Golden Balls made his Premier League debut in April 1995, and from the 1995-96 season onwards, he was always up there among the division's leading creators. By the 1997-98 campaign, Becks was one of the best crossers of a ball in all of world football, and he pipped Dennis Bergkamp to the title of the league's leading assister, with 13 assists to the Dutchman's 12. Beckham made 80 assists in 265 Premier League appearances in total, and had he spent his entire career in England, he'd most likely top the all-time rankings, and he'd at least feature within the top 2. 1998-99. Dennis Bergkamp tied with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. Two Dutchmen were tied at the top of the tree in 1998-99 on 13 assists, one who is synonymous with his creativity, and one a little less so. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was much more prolific in England than Dennis Bergkamp, but he didn't make quite as many assists as his compatriot in general. Bergkamp was obviously starring for Arsenal in the 98-99 season, meanwhile Hasselbank was in his final season with Leeds United, on the verge of joining Atletico Madrid, where he enjoyed a single sensational campaign. 1999-2000, David Beckham tied with Alberto Solano. It was Beck's back on top at the turn of the millennium, though not out on his own this time around. The man he was tied with was Alberto Solano, better known as Nobby, who was fantastic, particularly in his first stint with Newcastle United. Though he was capable of scoring 5 to 10 wonder goals a season, Solano made more assists than he scored goals, with 49 Premier League goals and 62 assists in total. Solano and Beckham both made an impressive 15 assists in the 1999-2000 campaign, and Solano now manages Peru's Olympic team and is the assistant manager of Peru's national team. 2000 to 2001, David Beckham. You can see why David Beckham was such an asset to Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United during his time at Old Trafford, as a really consistent and reliable provider from the right flank. It was Becks and Solano at the top of the tree yet again in 2000 to 01, but this time Beckham took top spot outright, with 12 assists for the season to his name. 2001-02, Robert Pires. In only his second season in English football, Robert Pires made more assists than David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, and his Arsenal teammate Dennis Bergkamp, and it wasn't even close. The Frenchman turned provider on 15 occasions in his most impressive season in terms of assists, though he became more prolific in terms of scoring goals in the following 3 campaigns, as he bagged 14 goals for 3 successive seasons. Pires made a grand total of 41 assists and scored 62 goals in 198 Premier League games. 2002-03, Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry topped the Premier League scoring charts 4 times, scoring 175 goals in 258 games for Arsenal in the Premier League in total, but he only topped the league's assist charts once. When he topped it though, in true Henry fashion, he did it in style. Henry recorded a remarkable 20 Premier League assists in the 2002-03 campaign, a record since assist statistics have been kept, and one which has since been matched but never exceeded in the near 2 decades since. Henry made 74 Premier League assists in total, meaning he averaged almost 1 goal contribution per game. 2003-04, MUZZY IZZET. The player with the most assists in the 2003-04 season was MUZZY IZZET. Is it? Really? Yes, it really is. The London-born Turkish international may look a little out of place in this video, alongside largely bona fide Premier League legends, but he is most certainly there on merit. In the 2003-04 season, IZZET recorded a whopping 14 league assists. Is it going to be enough to earn him top spot, he must have wondered, and indeed it was, with 2 assists more than West Ham legend Paolo Di Canio. The former Leicester City favourite recorded a grand total of 27 assists in 248 Premier League games, which is the lowest tally of any player in this video, and it means he made over half of his total number of assists within just a single season. Is it a bit strange that he made so many assists in just one season? It is, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and he takes his rightful place between Thierry Henry and the man up next. 2004-05, Frank Lampard. The 2004-05 season was a fantastic season for Chelsea, and a fantastic season for Frank Lampard. In Jose Mourinho's first season at the club, the Blues won the Premier League title and conceded just 15 goals. At the other end of the pitch, Frank Lampard made 18 assists and scored 13 Premier League goals, seeing off the likes of Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp to be named as that season's assist king. 2005-06, Didier DROGBA. Staying in West London, Chelsea retained their Premier League crown in 2005-06, with another Blues legend taking the title for the most assists in the league. That man was Didier Drogba, with the lowest assist chart topping seasonal tally at the time of only 11. That was enough to see off his closest competitors, Wayne Rooney, Luis Boa Morte, and Jose Antonio Reyes, and Drogba went on to make a total of 54 assists across his 254 Premier League outings. 2006-07, Cesc Fabregas tied with Wayne Rooney. I mentioned that Wayne Rooney came close to Didier Drogba in 2005-06, and he went one better in 2006-07, coming joint top, tied with Cesc Fabregas. It was another joint low tally of 11 which tied both players in top spot, though it's worth noting that Fabregas was only 19 years old for most of that season, making him by far our youngest inclusion. Rooney, meanwhile, who was only 21 himself and also scored 14 league goals that season, went on to register 103 Premier League assists, alongside his 208 goals, putting him third in the league's all-time assist charts since records began, and second in the league's scoring charts during the Premier League era. 2007-08, Cesc Fabregas. A 19-year-old Cesc Fabregas was the Premier League's joint leading assist provider, but a 20-year-old Fabregas was out in a league of his own. A remarkable young footballer, as I say, Fabregas was 20 for almost the entirety of the 2007-08 campaign, turning 21 on May 4th, yet he registered an incredible 17 assists. I've often beaten the drum on this channel about just how good Fabregas was at that age, and hopefully that helps to illustrate my point. The Spaniard went on to register 111 Premier League assists, the second most since records began, and he'd have been top had he played anywhere near as many games as the man ahead of him. 2008-09, Frank Lampard tied with Robin van Persie. Our final tie for top spot, there was a new low for the league's most assists in a season in 2008-09, as only two players hit double figures for assists. Those two were Frank Lampard, marking his second crown, and Robin van Persie. Lampard and Van Persie both hit double figures for both goals and assists that season, as both players made 10 assists, Van Persie scored 11 league goals, and Lampard bagged 12. 2009-10, Frank Lampard. A third inclusion for Super Frank Lampard, tying a record set by David Beckham. Both players have two outright titles, and one in which they came out joint top. The 2009-10 season was Frank Lampard's finest from a statistical standpoint, as he made 14 Premier League assists and scored 22 Premier League goals, giving him a joint tally of 36 goal contributions in 36 league games, which isn't bad going. Lampard went on to make 102 Premier League assists in total, making him one of only 4 Centurions in the league's history. 2010-11, Nani. A name you might not have expected to crop up, at least if you're anything like me. I did a little noise when I saw Nani's name pop up as the league's leading assist provider in the 2010-11 season. A brilliant player at his best, and still going strong for Orlando City now, Nani had an excellent 2010-11 campaign, scoring 9 goals and making 14 assists in the Premier League alone. 2011-12, David Silva. David Silva was fantastic from the word go following his arrival at Manchester City, and he maintained those high standards for a decade. He played as more of a traditional number 10 in the 2011-12 season, and the citizens reaped the rewards. Never the most prolific in terms of scoring goals, Silva could always pick a pass when he played further forward. He proved that in 2011-12, making 15 Premier League assists, putting him in top spot ahead of Juan Mata and Antonio Valencia, both tied on 13. 2012-13, Juan Mata. Speaking of Juan Mata, David Silva's former Valencia and international teammate makes it back-to-back Spaniards with his inclusion, which is fitting given that Spain blessed the world with the best midfielders on the planet during this time. Juan Mata's 2012-13 season is genuinely among the finest seasons a player has had in English football during my lifetime. He stood out head and shoulders above everyone else in the Chelsea team at that time, almost never losing the ball, looking endlessly creative, and a constant goal threat from both open play and on set pieces. He scored 12 Premier League goals and made 12 assists, seeing off Santi Cazorla and Eden Hazard to top the league's assist chart. 2013-14, Steven Gerrard. It is unusual in some respects that it was later on in Steven Gerrard's career, actually in his penultimate season with Liverpool, that he topped the Premier League's assist chart for the first time. I say that because Gerrard was playing in a much deeper role under Brendan Rodgers by this stage, and he also scored 13 Premier League goals, though I believe 10 of those goals were penalties. Nonetheless, Gerrard's statistics were very impressive for a man who operated primarily as a deep line playmaker that season, and almost as a sweeper at times. He made 13 Premier League assists in total, one more than his teammate and that season's Golden Boot winner, Luis Suarez. 2014-15, Cesc Fabregas. Back in the Premier League following 3 seasons away with Barcelona, and back at the top of the league's assist rankings, Cesc Fabregas was in electric form for Chelsea in the 2014-15 campaign, as he helped his new team to the Premier League title. Fabregas made 18 assists in 34 Premier League outings, and his third inclusion means he ties David Beckham and Frank Lampard on 3 inclusions, with 2 outright and 1 that was a tie, just like those two. 2015-16, Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil arrived in the Premier League with a reputation as the king of assists, given the extraordinary numbers that he had posted at both Real Madrid and at Werder Bremen. Undoubtedly one of the most creative footballers of his generation, Ozil made 9 assists in his first league season with the Gunners, followed by only 5 in his injury-disrupted second. But in his third, the World Cup winner really turned on the style. Ozil notched a cool 19 assists, way out ahead of runner-up Christian Eriksen on 13, and it was also the league's highest tally since former Arsenal striker Thierry Henry back in 2002-03. 2016-17, Kevin De Bruyne. The Premier League got a new assist king in 2015, and it was someone who they had seen glimpses of in the past. Kevin De Bruyne never really got much of a look in at Chelsea, but following 20 assists in a single season for Wolfsburg and a £55 million move to Manchester City, it always looked likely that we'd see more of him this time around, and so it has proved. In his debut campaign, De Bruyne made 9 assists, but he doubled that tally in his second season, up to 18, putting him way out in front for the 2016-17 season. Christian Eriksen was the league's runner-up once again, this time with 15 assists to his name. 2017-18, Kevin De Bruyne. The first player to make it back-to-back outright Premier League assist titles, Kevin De Bruyne wasn't about to relinquish his crown in the 2017-18 campaign. The effortlessly brilliant Belgian bagged himself 16 assists this time around, 2 down on the previous campaign, but still 1 more assist than his Manchester City comrade Leroy Sané on 15. 2018-19, Eden Hazard. Giving this list strong Belgian vibes towards the end, it's no secret that Eden Hazard went out on a high during his last season at Chelsea, though he has crashed back down to earth in a rather dramatic fashion at Real Madrid. Hazard averaged better than 1 assist every 5 games during his entire time in English football, and the 2018-19 season was his most creative, as he made 15 Premier League assists in addition to scoring 16 league goals. Fantasy Premier League players may recall that it was actually Ryan Fraser who came second in the league's assist chart that season, with 14 assists for Bournemouth. Meanwhile, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Christian Eriksen yet again came in 1 place behind him on 12 apiece. 2019-20, Kevin De Bruyne. Last, but by no means least, Kevin De Bruyne's 2019-20 season is a fitting way to sign off on this video in so many respects. For a start, De Bruyne made 20 Premier League assists, tying Thierry Henry's record-breaking tally from 2002-03, despite playing in an out-of-sorts Manchester City side who were often without Sergio Aguero. And secondly, De Bruyne's inclusion means he joins David Beckham, Frank Lampard and Cesc Fabregas on 3 Premier League seasonal assist crowns, but he is the only player to have 3 outright titles, given that the other 3 all shared the mantle at some stage. De Bruyne is the most prolific assister in the history of England's top flight since statistics have been measured, with a whopping 77 assists from his first 178 Premier League appearances, putting him narrowly ahead of Cesc Fabregas in that regard. De Bruyne already ranks among the league's top 10 players in terms of assists, and if he were to play on in English football for many years, it's not unthinkable that he could set the all-time record, though he'd most likely have to play consistently, averaging around 15 assists a season until the age of 35. Unlikely, but not impossible, and he's already got 11 so far this term. So that is it for the Premier League's leading providers every season since the inaugural 1992-93 campaign. That was fun, wasn't it? Now for my thrilling observation. Ryan Giggs isn't in there. I know, it's remarkable. The Premier League's all-time top dog when it comes to assists, who is miles out in front of everyone else when it comes to the all-time rankings, was never the league's seasonal number 1 man. It is a marathon, not a sprint after all. And Giggs did play in the Premier League until the age of 40, racking up over 650 appearances. Still, it would be a bit like Alan Shearer never having won a Premier League Golden Boot, when he actually won 3. It must be said that Wayne Rooney never won a Premier League Golden Boot, despite being the league's second highest scorer of the Premier League era, which I guess is kind of similar, but there you have it anyway. Thrilling until the last. The greatest football-based YouTube channel has assisted you in all of your thirst for footballing knowledge, served up in a shot glass full of entertainment and a healthy dose of fun as a chaser, yet again. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you all as ever for watching. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram via the username @HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.